Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Inspirate Business. This is our first show since the month of Ramadan. We hope that you've had a wonderful Ramadan. Now, we are about 3 weeks away from one of the most important days of this country's trajectory. We would be voting in the national elections, and it is election fever. I think this elections since 1994, 30 years later, is probably one of the most important elections ever. And it is important to get an understanding for us as the voters to understand what is available for us. Now, we have somebody who I had the privilege of meeting some years back, who left an indelible mark on my own personal perspective, a person who I've been watching and who's an activist in the truest sense. Welcome, Assalamu alaikum, to the Inspirate Business Show, Councillor Imraan Moosa.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, Yusuf. It is my humble honor and pleasure to be today with your viewership. And inshallah, through these discussions that we're having today, let's hope we can inspire, encourage, and make our nation understand the importance of this particular elections.
Yes, now, Councillor, you have had quite a journey, right? And representing the al-Jama-ah party for this coming elections. Now, we're going to talk about al-Jama-ah. We're going to talk about its trajectory over the last couple of years, your involvement. But as we do on this particular show, we all know Councillor Imraan. I mean, just recently, I shared with you, I met with somebody, a Lenasia resident, and they say, no matter what their issue is, no matter what time, if they have a problem and they contact their councillor, you would be at their beck and call. And that is what we're talking about, servant leadership. So we're going to talk about that, but I want to understand, and for the viewers as well, is where did it all start? Is activism in your blood? Where did you grow up? Is Lenasia in your blood? How did it all start?
Yes, it's actually all those. It's a combined situation where, from my young livelihood, when I started with getting involved in sports as well as my schooling career, and then obviously into activism, and also loving my town, obviously, because without loving your town, you can't appreciate what you need to do for your town. And I run with a hashtag called hashtag I Love Lenasia, just to give you an idea. And that's the spiraling of how I managed to drive a positive, solution-driven town to support me in terms of my servant leadership. So my youth has been very interesting in that I was highly active in sports. I was highly active during my youth with regards to the struggle of apartheid during the tricameral government and the transition thereof. And I've actually witnessed how the transition has taken place. And today I am where I am in terms of what you've just mentioned so lovely, the servant leadership. So that is what inspires me, is the servant leadership. And this is what we need to speak about. So when we speak about servant leadership, servant leadership needs to be combined with spiritual, there's a spiritual being of a person. And when you have the spiritual being of a person and God consciousness, you bring the servant leadership with it together. And that drives you with a lot of energy. So Shukr, through the mercy and the grace of Almighty, has given me the power, the strength, and the courage to continue my life, from youth right up until today, always driven by this God consciousness, being religious, at the same time understanding your purpose in life. And our purpose in life is so important. We brought in this world for a purpose and an object, and we need to fulfill that purpose and object, not being selfish to ourselves. And I think that's more or less the overview of how we need to take our lives forward. South Africa is surely in a state that needs solutions, some positive, good, honest leadership, so that we can run this country in such a way that the nation benefits from. Presently, the country is in turmoil. We must admit it, and we must find solutions. We must find positive ways to gather our nation together and make sure that we find those solutions and mechanisms to ensure that service delivery is at its best. Our money spent in the country is used to maximum benefit, to benefit our nation. So we have unemployment, we have a shortage of housing, we have corruption, we have load shedding, and all these combine to what we call challenges. But when and how was the best of leadership created? It was through adversity and challenges. And if you look at all the great leaders, including our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's been through a lot of challenges. We know that. And despite people calling him to an extent even mad at certain times, it's mentioned in the Quran as well. So we know for a fact that we need to stay strong, focused on our mission to accomplish our vision of ensuring that the Islamic values, ethos, are divine. And in such a way, led as an example to our nation. So if you take all the 4 books, if you take the Quran, Zabur, Injil, and the Torah, if you look at them all, they're all in harmony. And when I say they're all in harmony, the divine books speak about what? About guidance to mankind, about enjoying what is right and forbid what is evil. So this is an opportunity for us to bring to our nation, to lead them to guidance. And there's 2 factors that we need to combine. One is servant leadership that you spoke about, where we serve our communities and we lead by example. And Islam, we thank the Almighty that He's given us this beautiful religion and to have faith. And we must accept it graciously in such a way that when we accept it graciously, how do we implement and action what we learn from the revelations of the 4 holy books? And one of them is servant leadership, because what better can you have on earth than benefiting mankind? And that's the category that I fit into, is serving mankind. There's so much of benefit, there's so much of soul satisfaction, SOUL, that you feel within society, within community. Despite all the adversities and challenges, you're focused and you know your journey from this world to the everlasting world.
Now on that point, I mean, you speaking so profoundly, right? But one may ask, you a successful businessman,
Yes.
did you really need to get into politics? A lot of people have that view, right? Say,
Sure.
listen, it's messed up. What can I do? What was that triggered you? Because listen, politics, you would be able to guide us on this here. It's not an easy business, right?
Yes.
It's difficult. You're
Yes.
getting calls in the middle of the night. Do you need it at your age, etc.? People may ask this. So what was that? What was that driving force that got you to transition into serving?
It's one of the best questions that I've ever been asked. It's an extremely important question, because what drives us, what keeps us away from selfishness, is serving community, right? And there's nothing better than serving community. So as I said, it's that combination of your spiritual life towards the everlasting life with servant leadership. And this is what we need to do and understand in our lives. We're not going to live here forever. We need to leave an undeniable mark in our communities, where we leave a legacy for our future children. Make them understand that their leadership needs to be one that will help our society grow into one of guidance. And that is what the beauty of Islam is all about. So it's one of the best questions that has been asked. It's extremely important for our Muslims to understand that we should not be selfish. And this is a serious problem. I could have very well have been like many of the other Muslims in this country, many of the other persons in this country, and just carry on with my own lifestyle and not worry about our nation. Our nation is in crisis. It's a reality. We need to find solutions, and we need to unite our nation to such an extent that we build on our nation in such a way that we grow it to be one that will be admired by many of the other cultures and religions, to see this is a religion that will take us in such a way that people will appreciate. Already it's happening. Islam is one of the most charitable religions that we have on earth. Islam is one of the most powerful religions we have on earth. We have 2 billion Muslims. And yet, we still need that servant leadership. We still need to understand how to grow our unity together, how to strategize, how to use wisdom, and how to grow our ummah in such a way that we make a difference. And this is the right time. I promise you, in the history of South Africa, nobody would have ever imagined in their wildest dreams that the city of Johannesburg will be led by a party like al-Jama-ah.
Okay, we've on that point, we want to talk a lot about that and how actually that happened, because that is remarkable.
Yes.
So we've come to the end of this segment. Immediately after the break, let's understand how al-Jama-ah, this what was seen as a minority party, literally is leading the largest metropolitan city in Africa. Let's get this after the break. Welcome back to Inspirate Business, where we are being inspired and with the story of al-Jama-ah, led by Councillor Imraan Moosa. Now, just before the break, Imraan, you were saying that we were talking about servant leadership and how you transitioned from being a community man, successful business person, but wanting to make a change. You've seen the challenges that our country is facing with and how we can make a difference. Now, when you got involved in al-Jama-ah, you know, this is a remarkable story, and I think we need to understand it. I think many viewers don't know it. I know I met you way before the al-Jama-ah story. And who would have thought that al-Jama-ah today leads the city of Joburg, right? As you said, this you would, if you had to say this to somebody 4 years ago, they would have thought you are actually crazy, right? And it tells you about the power of intention, the power of, you know, wanting to do good, and Allah opens ways that you would never ever think can be open for you. We want to understand that story. How did it actually happen?
Yes. So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. We first attribute all our successes through the mercy and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So starting from there, we come to the innamal mu'minuna ikhwa, which you spoke about, the intention, your good intention. And there was a period of COVID that we had. During that period of COVID, I was quite sick. I just, developed COVID at the beginning stages. And there was a specific prayer and a dua that I made to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that take me in a way that you are happy and that I'm serving the community and I can make a difference in terms of what my purpose on earth is. And I think that was the catalyst of where it all started. And I took advantage of the opportunity when I was offered the opportunity to stand up as a councillor amidst knowing fully well that I'm up against giants. Lenasia had the DA ruling for about 10 years, and prior to 10 years was 5 years of the ANC. And I had to take these giants on as al-Jama-ah. At that particular time, I had to find ways and means, in fact, even with our own resources, to ensure that the campaign is a successful one. Because when you do anything in life, our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also taught us that you strategize and you work ways to ensure that whatever you're doing is achieved at the end of the day to the best of your ability. And obviously, if it's meant to be, then the Almighty will send it through to choose you as a servant to serve communities. And that's the space I am into presently. So I started very strongly, alhamdulillah, through the grace of Almighty. We won the award. It was the first award for al-Jama-ah.
So what year was this?
This was in 2019.
Right.
And then subsequently, I won again in 2021 with a landslide victory. The whole of Lenasia's voting stations all voted for me. This is also through the mercy of Allah when non-Muslims appreciate service delivery. So when they see you committed in terms of your amanat, your responsibility to the nation or for the work that you've taken on, then they appreciate it and they support you. I have many non-Muslims, Christians, Hindus, Tamils, that support me as al-Jama-ah in as much as it's perceived to be an Islamic party. But the reality is by our actions, like Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam led the Ummah, by his actions and by his guidance, that is how people get attracted and they are hungry for some guidance. And we have all the solutions in our divine books. All we have to do is implement it, action it, and ensure that our nation benefits from it. And this is what life is all about. So very importantly, like you said, I could have very well have chosen another path of capitalism, like many of us are. Unfortunately, in the society of South Africa, everybody is in their own cocoons, seeing to themselves and their own lives, not realizing the implications and a destruction for the future nations. We need to find ways of inspiring others and encouraging others to ensure that they understand the dynamics of South Africa, and if they don't partake in this particular elections, this could impact on our future. It is so serious, this election. So let me elaborate a little bit. We have plenty parties taking part in the elections.
So we can talk about that a little bit later. What I'm wanting to also understand and is then al-Jama-ah becomes the head of as the mayor, executive mayorship of the city of Joburg.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Okay, so it's very simple.
No.
It's a number game.
Right.
And the Almighty, in His infinite wisdom, plays a very important role in the intentions of what we want to achieve. So one of the intentions that I started with was serving humanity. We achieved it with a landslide victory in Lenasia. We had all the numbers. The IEC has those numbers, where all the voting stations literally in Lenasia were won by al-Jama-ah.
And you then become the councillor for Lenasia.
I become the councillor of Lenasia the second time round as well. And we find that spread now takes place where we have an extra councillor in the city of Johannesburg. Today, our extra PR councillor is the mayor of Johannesburg, executive mayor. So we must never underestimate our little work. Every person here in South Africa can play a role in his own little way. That small little way impacts on the bigger and larger scale of what we need to achieve here.
So
in
you
South
in
Africa.
2019, when you do this work, and this is
Yes.
the intention, you never thought you would actually end up becoming, or your party becoming, the executive mayorship in the city of Joburg, right? But it plays out, and this is where what we plan, and Allah plans, but Allah is the greatest of planners.
Very well said.
Right?
Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil,
Yeah.
ni'mal mawla wa ni'mal
Yeah,
nasir. Wa makaru wa
Wa
makarullah,
makarullah,
wallahu
wallahu
khairul
khairul
makirin.
makirin.
Those are the ayats. And we as firm believers must know that our faith drives us. And the faith is something that is unstoppable and achievable. Never underestimate and never underrate the power of a believer. And this is the power. You see it. Here's it evident. Here's an example of it in the city of Johannesburg. And the al-Jama-ah effect can follow suit and spread in the whole city of the whole country of South Africa.
So I mean, that is absolutely remarkable, right? So your mayorship has been for what period now?
So now, look, we had prior to the present mayor, Kabelo Guamanda, there was our other mayor, which was Ahmed Tapelo, Sheikh Ahmed Tapelo, who's an alim, and he was there. And when we had him there, there was a few political interferences, highly honorable. He stepped down for political reasons to ensure that we still managing to be as the ruling party in the city of Johannesburg. There was a bit of political play due to the way circumstances turned out to be, and he had to then step down. But he was highly honorable in taking that bold step to step down. It's not easy as a mayor, giving it over to the present mayor. And fortunately, the Almighty still wanted the power of the city of Johannesburg, which is the largest metropolitan, like you correctly said, in Africa, to be at the forefront of leadership in South Africa. So we have, for a very short while in the city of Johannesburg, leading the role as the mayor with al-Jama-ah. So we also look at the circumstances in which al-Jama-ah took over. The city was in a mess under the previous rulers, whether the different political parties that were running the city. We had to take it under very difficult circumstances and situations, but in adversity, you triumph. In adversity, you always learn and you triumph. So it's a very courageous step to take the mayoral role in the city of Johannesburg, particularly knowing fully well that the city and the country is on a tremendous decline. Taking it and courageously standing up as, being believers and serving humanity at large, finding ways and solutions to ensure that we build our nation strongly.
And you personally are actively involved in the city of Joburg as chairperson.
Absolutely, yes. So, the confidence, my services in Lenasia, like you correctly said, I try my very best at odd hours of the night, and not only in my area, but in the surrounding areas, has led to the many of the councillors having confidence in me and appointing me as the chairperson of EIS. So I oversee the MMC for EIS.
So EIS is?
Environmental infrastructure,
right,
which comprises the city power. Then you have Johannesburg water, infrastructure, and pick it up.
So these are all your basic services.
So it fits into how we want to grow our city. So, it's so important for, people of integrity, people that want to serve. They must come forward, get involved in politics. And one of the things that I've been doing, in as much as I'm a municipal employee, I also go to the schools and I inspire youth, because it's never previously been done in Lenasia and many of the other schools, where councillors go to the schools, because the councillor's jurisdiction is municipal services. But, I go that extra mile to ensure that we inspire youth and we explain them the importance of how we need to help one another in society, how to inspire them to become future leaders, how to make them understand what our country needs and why do we need future leaders like them to get involved in politics, because many of the youth are apathetic towards politics. They have not registered as voters as well.
That social cohesion and that community activism that is in your blood, comes out so strongly. We've come to the end of this segment. What I want to do is immediately after the break is now talk about al-Jama in this current environment, with 3 weeks away, I believe, from the national elections. What are the challenges, what are the opportunities for us as the electorate with this next elections, immediately after the break. You are watching Inspirate Business, and on our Red Hot Couch, sponsored by Aza Collective, we have none other than Councillor Imraan Moosa, chairperson also of the EIS segment of the city of Joburg, representing al-Jama-ah. Now, as we spoke about, 3 weeks away from the national elections, 30 years after democracy, with all the challenges, as we know, that South Africa is faced with. And we've been speaking to Councillor Imraan about, despite adversity, being an agent for change. Now, let's shift gears a little into, you have the success story. You start from Lenasia, do great work there. You just have to hear from Lenasia residents. I go there quite often, and I see it's vibrant. There's cleanliness there. There's business thriving. It's an intertwine between your traditional Indian community with the advent of now even informal settlements integrating different. It's almost a microcosm of how South Africa can be.
Sure.
And so al-Jama now for this national elections, I mean, what is the vision? How do you see yourself playing a role? And also, proudly Muslim with Islamic ethos, but also opened up to the broader segment of South African society. How are you positioning yourselves?
So I think we're in an excellent position. The Muslims need to understand this and realize this. And I think that is pinnacle or very important, pertinent that Muslims get involved in this particular elections. And I'm saying it very strongly. We have the potential, we have the power, we have the faith to lead this country. There's nobody better to lead and guide from the wonderful scriptures that we have of Quran. As Muslims, we should be humbly proud to grace the beautiful religion we have and implement and action it within our communities in South Africa. So here's a stepping stone. We're giving you al-Jama as the opportunity and the door of opening in politics to ensure that you make that mark. Now, the potential of the Muslim Ummah here in South Africa is underrated, and I think to a large degree, the potential of the Muslim vote in this country, not understanding that we have the power to lead this country, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit on this, is that just like the city of Johannesburg being run by al-Jama, what stops al-Jama in a capable and trustworthy leadership to lead this country to success? And this can be a great success story for Islam to spread not only in South Africa but across the world, to be an example. Because like I said earlier, from adversity you have success. And South Africa is at a point where you have load shedding and every other challenge that we faced up as South Africans. And there is nobody better than the Muslims, no one better than the Muslims that has the potential. So we must not underrate and underestimate the power. Never underrate and underestimate the power of a Muslim, especially as a believer. And we've proved it in Johannesburg. And inshallah, we're going to try and prove this in South Africa. We need the Muslims to understand this particular point. And that is the drive to make sure that you get involved in politics, play your necessary role. It is your moral right to ensure that this country has a moral compass. It's guided by good values, by good morals, by a truth and justice system that this country really needs. It needs honest leadership. And here we have it on the plate. And now I'm going to come to the main point. And that is, can the Muslim Ummah of South Africa tell me how many parties are taking part in the elections? It's an excellent opportunity for the Muslims to drive this country because all the other parties are dwindling. There's fractions amongst all the parties. And that is the time when Islam should ascend and be a living example to take the necessary leadership positions to ensure that we are a strong nation and we can lead. Are we not strong Muslims? Are we scared to action our values, practice our values, lead by example? We are a powerful nation. Let's go out there to the polls, let's vote, and let's make sure that we have honest, good, trustworthy leadership so that this country can have a moral compass. It's led by good guidance, by good moral laws. Presently, we're faced with very many immoral laws that can be the destruction of this country. Presently, there's many immoral laws, and as Muslims, like we're taking a stand with Palestine, let me tell you, we cannot be complicit as Muslims in this country to be complicit when there's immoral laws being legalized at government level. We have a right, we have a duty as Muslims in this country to ensure that we amend those laws lest we be prone and invite destruction to our nation here in South Africa. I give you an example. LGBTQ, right? Same-sex marriages. right? Uh, Lesbianism, uh, every immoral law that's legalized, whether it's abortion, gambling, uh,
Alcoholism.
alcoholism,
Yeah.
another one. So all these laws that we talk about, what does it do to society? Who has the solutions for it? Our wonderful revelations. And you know what's the beauty? It's in harmony with all other religions.
Yes.
So we must take our rightful positions. We are duty bound morally to ensure that we lead in positions that will make a difference in our country.
Now, I mean, this is very beautifully said, but I want to just play devil's advocate here.
Please,
So
please.
somebody will ask that as Muslims, we are in a minority in this country. We are what they say 2% or maybe more, but I think it's 2 million of a 55 million country. So how much of an impact can we make?
Right.
And then they'll say, okay, you vote in al-Jama, but again, there's this bigger parties, and they will say there is this argument that's the wasted vote. I want us to dispel that from your perspective.
Fantastic. That's the question I was waiting for. Okay. So you have an excellent example. So if we were small, how did we get to rule the city of Johannesburg? You have a mayor here, as small as you are. Why has the Almighty chosen us? Your good intentions can make an impact. So, you know, if you look at our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with the Battle of Badr, how did Islam spread? How did we become a strong nation? From a minority. But can I tell you something more interesting than that? For the Muslims to understand what power we have in this country, we have an excellent opportunity presently in these elections. When you have so many parties taking part in elections, and all the parties are vying for the same power or position in government, that is the time the Muslims has an excellent opportunity, even though you're 2%. You can make the difference, because when all the parties are split and they all have their voters, that is an excellent opportunity, even if you're 2%. So we got no guarantee on the other parties how many percent they're going to get. So the only way you can make a difference is if you go out there to the polls as Muslims and not hold back. Because you can't make a difference in the country by sitting at home, sitting on our couches, being complicit. You're not going to make a difference for the future of this country and for us presently. The only way you can do it is now is the time. And why I'm saying that, I'm going to answer your question. If we were not powerful as a Muslim nation, if we were not powerful as al-Jama to give you this opportunity, all these other parties, we have many non-Muslim voters that are looking at al-Jama as the alternative, as a party that can lead with trustworthiness, with capable leadership, and it's proven already. It started. We've stabilized the city of Johannesburg. We have a clean audit in the city of Johannesburg already in a short period of time. So it shows that we can lead this country with a good moral compass and guidance. But as I said before, never underestimate and underrate the power of believers in this country and the nation at large to look at al-Jama as a vehicle to lead this country. We have an excellent opportunity. Trust me, there is so many fractions amongst all the different parties presently. We've heard amongst the new parties that have come up, and they're all running their own agenda with having differences between one another. We've seen it, we've witnessed it, we've felt it, but feel the al-Jama effect, which is a spiritual one that wants to drive with a good intention. And that is the al-Jama effect. So we're creating waves, and nothing is impossible. Like you alluded to earlier, where in your wildest dreams would you have thought that the city of Johannesburg will be run by al-Jama? So likewise, we have an excellent opportunity knocking at our door with these elections. If you have so many parties, over 50 parties taking part in the elections, what stops al-Jama to lead this country? Because all the votes are going to be split. And whether however many seats you have representation to lead those particular principles and morals and values that you want in this country to be led by. You can ensure that they are heard in parliament with. So we need to make the difference. We can't sit on our backs and just expect the country to move forward.
Right.
So I hope I've answered you to make you understand the power of, as much as we think we are 2%, but in the larger scheme of things, you can make a huge difference in the coalitions as well.
Yes.
And you can build from there.
And I think that is the opportunity. We've come to the end of the segment. As we go to the last segment, and now let's discuss how this is all going to pan out. I want to just tap your experience into how this elections is going to pan out and where we can actually, let's get to a practical level of how al-Jama can actually really make an impact immediately after the break. Hope you've been enjoying this intriguing conversation with Councillor Imraan Moosa of the al-Jama-ah party. As we about to vote in this elections, national elections, al-Jama-ah is contesting on all provinces, on the what they have, the national, regional, and provincial.
Correct.
It's all 9 provinces.
Correct.
Councillor Imraan is started off and still represents the Lenasia constituency. But now let's talk about al-Jama and its national. I mean, you guys have just seen now recently that you have a wonderful candidate, Western Cape premier candidate. You leading the city of Joburg. How do you see this elections panning out, and where do you see yourselves? What would be your anticipation in terms of how many votes you get, how many seats you get in parliament? I believe it is depending on how many people vote, but you need about 50,000, I think, to get a seat in parliament, right?
Yes. So yes, it's worked pro rata according to the amount of parties that take part in the elections. But most of the aspects that I've touched upon, it is an opening for our nation to understand that they need strong leadership, leadership that can enjoin what is right and forbid what is evil. It's a good principle that we learn from the divine books. And I think if the nation follows that, and if we can make a difference in terms of ensuring that we vote for al-Jama, that will be my message, that, come out strong in your numbers, come and vote for al-Jama. We are making a difference. You're quite correct. We have an activist, Imam Harun, that was shaheed. His son is now Professor Harun. That's the premier
candidate. That is the Imam Harun's son.
He's the premier candidate in Western Cape. We have the Honorable Member of Parliament, Hanif Hendricks, that has founded the party and has laid the foundation for our party to, open the doors to good leadership in this country, and an opportunity for Muslims to understand how important is it to ensure that we are in positions to take care of the values, morals, and principles that our divine books teach us about, lest we be prone for destruction, as I said. And that is the concern. The main concern for me, the driving force, is that when you see a flood of something that's coming to you that's disastrous or a torment, what do? Do you just, ensure that you're going to go and move yourself away from it, or do you do something and help society to grow and have a healthy, wealthy, good community and society in South Africa? I think that's the drive we need.
The prophetic way is to actually go and do something.
Proactive.
Yes.
As a Muslim, we have that right. And we, like I said before, we have such a wonderful religion. All we have to do is practice it, lead it by servant leadership, and let others see and learn from that leadership, so that we can have a good moral compass and guidance for this particular nation to be led in such a way that we have a good community that is happy, that will feel contented and comfortable with living their lives in such a way that there will be a sense of comfort when they look at Islam with the right eye, and the spread of Islam in such a way that this is a true religion of guidance.
Now, I was, I think, telling you, or in the previous segment, I mentioned that I I periodically go to Lenasia. Right now,
Yes.
you leading as the councillor for Lenasia, and what you've
Yes.
done there is tremendous.
Yes.
I mean, you look at Lenasia, we say it's a city within a city. You have everything there. There's a mishmash of religions. There's a mishmash of, as South Africa, which we know is so divided from a class perspective, from the affluent to the poverty stricken. You have informal settlements. You have
Correct.
foreigners there.
Absolutely.
You have the migrants that have come, even first generation Indians, Bangladeshis that come in and live. So there's this. It's a microcosm of what South Africa is, and somehow you have mastered this in a way,
Yes.
right? With the divine help, as you say, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also your strategies. And so it's to create a social cohesion. I mean, a lot of the businesses there as well are dependent on your informal settlements, on like I said, these expats that are here. And I look at it, I say, if you can replicate this to town to town to town in South Africa,
Yes.
we'll literally have such a beautiful country.
Absolutely.
Because we'll be dealing with the xenophobic issues, we're dealing with the social cohesion issues, with the Gini coefficient issues, economic growth issues. So is this the model that you're looking at?
Yes, absolutely. You know, like I said, I was, one of the COVID patients at the beginning. And that prayer, through the mercy and the grace and the power of Almighty, has given me the strength immediately when I recovered. I actually made a promise to the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that before I leave the earth, I would definitely like to see a legacy left for South Africa in terms of our servant leadership to lead by example. And I think, I would love to see our Muslims also do the same and bring communities together. And, the spread of Islam, it's so easy because I promise you our nation is looking for guidance. I've seen this in Lenasia. I've witnessed it in Lenasia. And the more I serve the residents of Lenasia, and you're absolutely correct, if this replica can be taken throughout South Africa, I promise you will have a wonderful, beautiful South Africa.
We're coming to the end of this wonderful conversation with you. Just as some parting words for our viewers,
Yes.
maybe 3 or 4 key points.
Yes.
What can the viewers do to become more active, as citizens in this country?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity to explain the nation that we need to move away from where we are presently in the country. We need to find solutions. And the best way to find it is have a vehicle strategically ensuring that we enjoin what is right, forbid what is evil. I'm not targeting any parties. I don't want to go through that route. I want to find solutions. I want to find some positive ways, like I've done in Lenasia, found a way, bring everybody together, unite them, strategize ways in which you use the mineral resources, the industries, to empower a nation, ensure that there's sufficient housing, ensure that poverty is eradicated, ensure that there's sufficient employment, and economically drive our country up and be a leading example to the world. And the only way we can do this is my appeal as an individual. My humble appeal is that please come out in your droves, vote for the al-Jama-ah party, and I promise you we will make a difference in this country with good leadership and having trustworthy, capable positions being filled by the right persons so that this country is uplifted in such a way that we can be a proud nation.
On that very, very powerful note, providing hope and that challenge to us to become active citizens, to become servant leaders in our own way. We can't be sitting back and saying, this is insurmountable. We have the power within us that's been shown to us by the prophetic way, our scriptures, to be able to make an impact.
There's just one last point I would like to appeal to, especially the Muslims. Please spread the message amongst your family, friends, communities. Come out, encourage them to vote for al-Jama-ah. I promise you, you will see the difference of your values being taken care of, the principles of immorality being amended in this country. We need to protect ourselves lest we be prone to destruction. And this comes directly from Quran. It is not from myself. These are divine laws and revelations that are in harmony with many of the other books. So I'm appealing to you as a nation, please come out in your droves, vote for al-Jama-ah so that we can make a difference in this country.
Yes, and I think the power lies with us. We cannot be sitting then, as you mentioned, after this and then say that
It's
we
too
never
late.
had the opportunity.
Exactly.
We have the opportunity now. Let's go out and make the right decisions.
Correct.
On behalf of the Inspirate Business Show, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. You've always made yourself available. I know we requested it at the last minute, but that in itself demonstrates what Councillor Imraan Moosa stands for. This that goes the extra mile. And we, with those principles, I can only wish you the best as al-Jama.
Thank you so much. We'll always remain committed and dedicated to serve the nation at large.
Thank you very much. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and we hope to have you on many other shows.
Inshallah.
Once, inshallah, you have a very critical role to play post the elections.
Yes.
Who knows? As we say,
Yes.
many things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows
Yes,
best.
yes.
We wish you all the best.
Jazakallah khairan, and Jazakallah to Hilaal Studios, yourself, Yusuf, for coordinating this. And inshallah, my last request and prayer is that, I will be standing as the number 2 candidate for al-Jama-ah. Come out there and, support us, and let's have a strong nation together ahead.
Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.